Good evening. I'm Catherine Clavana. Welcome to Your Community, You're Connected, a live program about homeowner and condominium association issues. During the first half of our program, our guests will discuss the steps association members can take to reactivate a dormant association. The second half of our program will be the community open forum portion of the show, where you'll have the opportunity to ask questions on any topic related to common interest community living. Our panel of experts is here to answer your questions. You can phone in your questions to 703-818-1445 or email them to ycyc@fairfaxcounty.gov. In addition, you can connect with us by tweeting questions on Twitter using hashtag FFXYCYC. For our Facebook users, visit the Fairfax County Consumer Affairs Facebook page and submit your question in the comments section under the posting for tonight's show. And be sure to include hashtag FFXYCYC. We'll respond to as many of your questions as possible. Well, here to get us started is Michelle Thompson, the Fairfax County Homeowner and Condominium Association Liaison and a consumer specialist with the county's Consumer Affairs branch. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Catherine. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, Michelle, what are the characteristics of a fully functioning homeowners or a condominium association?
So it's all of the characteristics we talk about on the different programs of the show. You have a board that's actively engaged in taking care of the daily operations of the association. They're governing by the governing documents and ensuring that assessments are collected and maintaining the common elements and common areas. They may even have participation from the community. They're advertising open meetings and people may be attending. We do know that there are a lot of communities that are out there that are functioning well and their community feels so confident with them that they may not show up for a meeting because they feel confident that things are being done well. And some of the significant characteristics of the individuals who are serving on the board are those who understand the responsibility of being a board member, meaning that they are there for the common good and they're there for the to support the fiduciary responsibility, and they're not there for some individual agenda that goes against that.
So who should participate in tonight's discussion and why?
So when we talk about dormant associations, we're talking about communities that don't have a board and maybe the daily operations of the community are not being fulfilled. So there's no one stepping up to do that. We're going to have some conversation about the corporate status of an entity if required and what happens if that lapses. We're going to talk about what happens when the individuals are not stepping up to be board members. It's also a great conversation for individuals who may have board members, but they don't have people in the queue, per se, who are ready to step up for the next election, or they're having a hard time for people to step up and be nominated or to desire or know even how to be a board member.
Great. Well, joining the discussion is Amy Kessler, Senior Associate with the law firm of Segan, Mason & Mason. Amy specializes in the representation of homeowners and condominium associations in the state of Virginia. Amy is actively engaged with the Washington Metropolitan Chapter of Community Associations Institute. Also with us tonight is Betsy Johns, partner and CFO with National Realty Partners, a firm that manages homeowner and condominium associations. For more than 30 years, Betsy has provided management services to both commercial and residential associations. Well, we've got a lot to cover tonight, so let's get started. So Amy, let's go back to the very beginning. Why do we have homeowner and condominium associations? And what are the governing documents and laws that relate to these self-governing entities?
Well, the generic reason we have associations is because the government, the municipalities, was kind of passing off some of its work to the smaller communities within the county or the city. So your homeowners association may provide trash collection, they may provide paving of the road, snow removal, that sort of thing. That's taking some of the burden off the municipality. But another thing is that there's a reason for the association to exist in and of itself that's in the greater development plan that the county or city may have, such as stormwater issues or something like that they need addressed, and so they've put that on that community in that specific area. And that you see in the proffers, which is part of the whole site plan development and the development of the association as a physical thing. The governing documents are what actually create the association, the recordation of a declaration or a master deed if we go back to the Horizontal Property Act. And those created the actual association, and that's recorded in the land records and lays out the basics about assessments, what the association covers, the common area, some of the basic rules and regulations, and then there are bylaws and articles of incorporation that also establish those sorts of things for the community.
Great. So now, Betsy, in a community that's transitioning from developer control to unit owner control, what are some of the scenarios that may cause a community to become dormant?
Well, quite a few actually, and it usually starts with the developer side. Developers could be going bankrupt. They may not be attentive to the association's needs and the requirements in the law, so they don't pass on the documents that they should. They don't start a transition soon, where the best thing to do is to get homeowners on the board along with the developer early on before that transition period, so they can educate people and get people ready to take over. And at that point, they've got some professionals that can help them, or at least they have the ability to call in professionals to help them figure out what they need to know. They need to, as we mentioned, they need to know all the governing documents. They need to know the proffers. They need to know what their responsibilities are and the source of where those responsibilities come from. And if they don't have all that and they're just left to find all that for themselves, you know, not too many volunteers are going to do that. Mm-hmm. So they need to start right from the beginning.
Betsy, in that scenario, so the developer has a manager for the association, and then as they're transitioning to unit owner, are the unit owners association going to possibly consider a different manager?
Yeah, that's, you know, sometimes we refer to working for the builder as the kiss of death for the management company. But, you know, it doesn't have to be that way. And especially developers really, they typically don't want to really have to manage the association. So, you know, they tend to give us that kind of leeway to get the association going and to work with the owners. And the smart management company is the one who starts to work closely with the owners, whether they're on the board or not, but start making them build the kind of community that they want. And you know, and if it needs the blessing of the developer, so be it. So get people active and involved, and that will avoid the dormant situation, because you don't want to be left with a mess where you rely on volunteers to carry on, and they're only going to be upset with the management company, you know. So it's best for everybody if this can move forward.
So Michelle, in your office, are you hearing from a lot of owners about dormant status in their communities?
You know, I do receive calls, and a lot of times it's from the new owner who's moved into the community. They're very excited about, maybe it's their first home, or maybe their family is growing, and they're very excited about being a part of a community and creating that. But they don't. There may be someone who used to be on the board. Usually I'll hear there's one person that have a neighbor and they have the documents in their living room, but they don't know all the details of what's going on. They haven't had meetings for a while. So this program is definitely for that community. What's, you know, that individual, what steps do we take? Where do we even begin to get people motivated again who used to be a part of the community, who used to run the board? So I'm excited about having the program this evening.
And so do you have resources there? Like if somebody were in that scenario and said, okay, well, I've gotten a little bit of information, but really where do I go from now? Do you give advice or point people in the right direction?
Yes, absolutely. So a lot of what we're sharing this evening is the advice that I will share, as far as, again, we talked about those governing documents, and we'll get into a little bit more about that, the different steps you would take, the different resources that are available, educational opportunities and such, and we'll talk a little bit more in the program.
Great. Well, we have an email from Mort. We're not a dormant association, but we may be on our way there. We're supposed to have 5 members on our board, but we're having trouble getting someone to fill our 5th opening. Any suggestions about how to get people to want to serve on the board? This is a perennial question, right?
I have 2 immediate responses. One is you're lucky to have 4 members on your board, because often the difficulty is finding, you know, sufficient people to serve. The other thing is, a lot of times I've found that when people don't want to serve on the board, there are kind of 2 basic reasons. One is either they're just so beaten down because there's some issue that's been a a difficulty to deal with, or it's the associations going along so smoothly that nobody feels any need to change the horse. So it may not be necessarily a sign of things going downhill that there's nobody for that 5th seat. From a legal standpoint, though, you have to look at your governing documents and see how many board members are required. There may not be a requirement for 5. It may be, some docs say that the board can be from 3 to 9 members, and they currently have 5. Well, then 4 is okay. And we generally recommend, and I think Betsy would agree with me, odd numbers just in terms of a vote, because 4 and 4 you can split. But if it's not required in your documents, then you can do whatever you wish in that regard.
But in terms of recruitment, and as you said, lining people up in the queue for the next time, what do you have any kind of best practices? Maybe,
Yeah, well,
Betsy, about
those I think are changing today. The biggest complaint we hear is that people aren't involved in the association and so they don't volunteer to be on the board. Well, we need to change how we engage people. They complain that they don't come to meetings. Well, meetings just aren't the thing. I mean, people are busy these days and everybody has a different way. They have social media, websites, they want to communicate from their homes. And I think we need to